how amazing the Aussies were going, particularly in the couple of days leading up to our chat. This week, it's kind of narrowed down a little bit, but Paddy Mills on fire, 17 points against the Mavs.
Yeah, I mean, he was great in the absence of Tony Parker, obviously out with injury for a couple of games, and Paddy definitely took advantage of that opportunity, but bringing him back to the bench and sort of increasing that explosion scoring that he provides from that sixth-man role really sort of did get him back into his comfort zone. And he had 17 against the Mavs, was hitting them from deep, was attacking the rim, was getting them out in transition, and just doing all the things that Paddy Mills is so good at in that bench role. What did you make of his time against the Mavs?
We talked about it before. The difference of having Paddy Mills on the floor just opens up a lot more for the San Antonio Spurs to run offensively, because they're going to have to guard the three-point line, whereas Tony Parker's not a poor three-point shooter, but he's definitely not Paddy Mills. Paddy Mills is an absolute sharpshooter from three. So it really does open up the floor. But what I like to see from Paddy is his playmaking. His assists actually go up, in obviously with the minutes going that he has. He's averaging, I think in his 4 starts, close to 6 assists a game, which is huge for him. For him to show that part of his game should give him some more minutes as well.
Another Australian getting plenty of game time and using it well, Dante Exum, averaging 31 minutes in the last 5 games.
That's more Exum time. That's we can't complain about that. We were talking about that last week. Yeah. We don't want to see him leave the floor at all. And that just shows you, though, that the confidence in his injury is obviously there for him and also the coaching staff, because giving him that increased role and those increased minutes is showing that, you know what, they're not worried about the injury. It's far behind them, and now he can focus on basketball. And the explosion's there. We've seen highlights daily, pretty much every time he steps on the court for Dante. And now we need to start to see some sort of consistency with his game.
And it's not so much just that he's playing a ton, which he is. It's how he's playing. He's driving to the basket, those hard cuts. He's getting baseline looks and really working well with that 1-2 punch with Rudy Gobert. So the confidence he has, I think the injury is just behind him now, because he looks like he's really confident going to the hoop. Things, he was a little bit more reserved with last season, but I like the aggression and the confidence that we're seeing, because with that first step that Dante has and his length, he really doesn't give you much of a chance off the dribble.
That first step's probably as dangerous as you have in the league. He's up there with some of the elite players that we have. But it's interesting. I was looking at the Western Conference playoff picture. Utah's sitting on the outside looking at it right now. It's tough for them really to get in, because, I mean, the Lakers are in 8th, and the Western Conference is really so tough. It's going to be a battle. I think they eventually do get in, just based on their talent. They have too many pieces to not get in the playoffs, but it's going to be tough.
Yeah, I think the logjam was maybe a little unexpected this season. As you said, a couple of surprise teams have sort of popped their way back in there. But hey, we thought the Western Conference quietened down this season. Definitely not the case.
Busy time coming up, of course. We've got Thanksgiving looming in the USA, which means that there's a day of blank, if you like, which is everybody stop and breathe for one day. But that means that there's 15 games on Saturday morning, all of which you can see live on the NBA website via your League Pass. It's very simple. Just log on and follow the prompts, and you can get involved with League Pass straight away. Let's look at some of the teams involved in this, Benyon. We were talking about the Wizards, but Magic, Spurs, Kings, Thunder, and Spurs, followed by the Nets. It's a big run of games for them. I said, is it season defining? And you said, well, there are games they're going to struggle with, and there are games they're going to win in there. The danger is they don't win those games, I guess.
That's the problem. It's the games against the Kings and the Nets that really have to step up. Those 2 games against San Antonio, you can probably just pencil in those L's there for the Wizards. But I really think they need to get things going. I mean, Bradley Beal had 42 points the other night. We saw him and John Wall combine for 68, I think, a couple of nights ago. So
is he the key?
I think Bradley Beal really is, because John Wall is going to be consistent, but they need that second punch of offense, and that has to be from Bradley Beal, because defensively, they're not stopping anyone. They're giving up a ton of points, especially in the paint. They're really not doing a good enough job on that side of the floor. So unless they want to adopt the Houston attempt and just, let's try and score as many points as we can and see if we can beat guys that way, maybe that's the case. But they're second bottom in the Eastern Conference, just above Philadelphia, so they need to turn things around quickly.
Yeah, they do. But the East it does give you a lot of room for error, so to speak, when you start. It is pretty forgiving to start the season. They are entering the adult portion of their schedule, so to speak, with the Spurs back-to-back. But if they can show well against the Spurs, because that's a big, huge litmus test for them, to get a win, maybe stealing 1 out of 2 from that team, that could give them the confidence to power through, and then maybe when the calendar turns over, they're in position to make that playoff run.
Another team facing a huge run of games, all of which, again, I stress you can see live through NBA.com right here in Australia. The Sixers now, Joel Embiid may be on hot form, but when you're facing a run of fixtures like Grizzlies, Bulls, Cavs, Raptors, hello, wake up time?
Well, we've all kind of fallen in love with the Sixers this year because they have been impressive, especially at home. They're really treating their home fans to some entertaining ball, especially Joel Embiid, who's taken the Rookie of the Year race and sort of run that baton out ahead of everyone else. So this is a real test for them coming up against consistently good teams on back-to-back nights. You know, you've got to run here at 4 or 5 games where they're really going to be pushed, and there are no easy wins in that stretch. How do you think the Sixers will kind of react to that kind of that schedule?
Well, this is good for them because they're a young team. They're still learning how to win, and not much of it is expected from these guys. And you can see that they're playing freely and openly, led by Joel Embiid. The minute those minute restrictions come off of him, it's going to still be a different kind of situation because you're now going to be playing Joel Embiid more than the 24-minute per game situation, and that may open the door, may close the door for some of the guys who've been playing, who've been getting extended minutes, like a Jahlil Okafor, who some games is not showing up the way you want him to. Scoring-wise, has been terrific. Need to rebound a lot more. But Nick Stauskas, my man, saucy. He's putting a lot of sauce on things, and he's becoming like a cult-like figure in Philly with this sauce stuff. So it has opened the door a little bit for some of the guys, especially seeing as they're a young team, and it's perfect because we know the elephant in the room, aka Ben Simmons, is still looming, and eventually he's going to get on the court. And if he can kind of fit, he's going to be able to fit any system because he's just such a dynamic player. But if everyone can get confident around him and you just plug him in, away you go.
You've been almost looking over my shoulder. Many questions about Ben Simmons. We get them every week.
Yeah.
Dean Barnes asked the question we're asked all the time, when's he coming back? We did discuss this last week, and I mean the consensus from you guys was give it possibly till the end of the season.
Don't rush
not,
don't
not
rush
before. Staying with the Sixers for a second, Mark Sudholz, who should they trade? Getting ahead of himself, but who should they trade?
Are we talking about the Sixers? That's interesting. There's a lot of pieces there, but it depends on who you want to trade for. That's really the question you should ask. We were talking today, actually, back at the desk, that they do have some pieces at the 2 position, which they didn't have a couple of years ago. Mainly Stauskas and then a couple guys who are stashed away that they could always bring in. And then with Ben at the wing, I think they're solid there.
Yeah, I think, especially with Nerlens Noel coming back, we're maybe going to find out a little bit more about the Sixers, how him and Okafor kind of work together. We've kind of already seen that last year, and it wasn't great. But now you add Joel Embiid in there, and it's going to be a competition to see who can play the best with Joel Embiid out of Okafor and Noel, because both of these guys, most importantly, have trade value. I think there's other teams out there that'll be looking at these guys because they are contributors, you know, whether it's offensively or defensively, both of them do have their strengths. I kind of feel like it's got to be one of those guys, just given the logjam that they have. Dario Saric, for me, has been unbelievable, very impressive in his first season in the league. So I think he's untouchable. Embiid is unbelievably untouchable. So it's got to come down to those 2 bigs. I think that's where the logjam kind of has to give.
Interesting. Jethro Barnes asks about Delhi. When's he going to win an MVP? Is an interesting question. I'm going to ask you this: when's he going to win an Oscar?
Well, that's the trajectory, right? You've got to go NBA championship, get your own sneaker, get your Hollywood film. I guess Academy Award comes next, right?
It has to. If he's playing himself in his biopic anyway, that's huge. I mean, we talked about it a little bit yesterday. It is huge for Delhi to be able to get this movie out and have his story being told, because it is a quite interesting story. Yeah, it's to make it from a guy that was off the fringe somewhere, and then now starred and took the world by storm, the sports world by storm, even in the NBA Finals the year that they lost to the Golden State Warriors. But incredible story for Delhi, and then to see it capped off last year with the chip, that's amazing.
Alan Davis asks, what are the Pelicans' playoff chances if they stay healthy for the rest of the season? Well, they've shown today that they can win, I guess. A good start.
Man, Drew Holiday makes a big difference. He's been unbelievable. I mean, Tim Frazier's been great as well, but just having one other guy for Anthony Davis to run with, having a point guard that can break down the defense, that can shoot the 3, and just have another guy that, you don't have to just send the double team, the triple team at AD. There's another guy that can space things out. I think they can maybe save their season. I mean, they look good in the last sort of 3 or 4 games. Drew Holiday's been back for 3 of those games, I think I'm a believer.
Drew Holiday's been back for 3, and they've won the last 3 games, including today. So you add that to from starting from 0 from 8. I think they started off. I think they're the last. Since then, they've been 5-2, which is incredible to see them stepping up. And you mentioned just getting Anthony Davis some help. He's so talented that he can really carry a team through any adversity, and he tried his hardest. But getting Drew Holiday back, fringe guy who could, in the right situation, be an all-star.
He was an all-star.
Yeah, it was an all-star, but in the right situation, could be an all-star. And he's showing his worth since being back in the lineup for sure.
And Tariq's only 2 weeks away as well, so we're going to get
helps on the way.
Yeah,
helps on the way.
We're going to get some talent. We're back.
You're live on NBA Australia and NBA New Zealand on our Facebook live session this Wednesday. Thank you for all your questions pouring in. We get this one from Bradley Newman. Your thoughts on the Heat's list and their form? Who wants it? Carla.
I think that sums it up.
Yeah, it hasn't been the prettiest of scenes in down in mind, but you know what? They do have a lot of young talent, which is always good to see, and it's exciting. They're one of those teams though that you enjoy watching on League Pass, because they're going to put up highlights. You have an opportunity to watch one of the premier big men who has the potential to make the All-Star team in Hassan Whiteside. Fantastic, big that's full in stat sheets. You get points, rebounds. He can even give you assists, but you're definitely going to get blocks. So for all you fantasy freaks out there, you love that type of stuff. So they're still a team that's worth watching because they do have a lot of young talent, and I know you love the point guard out in Miami as well.
I'm a big Goran Dragic guy. I like the way that he operates, but I think that might be the problem because I kind of think like they need to commit to that young direction.
Right.
You've got Richardson, you've got the Dion Waiters fans that are out there, you've got Justice Winslow and Hassan White. So that's a great young core of 4. I kind of feel like Goran Dragic, I'm not going to say he's wasted on this team, but I don't think he's going in the same direction as the Miami Heat. So I think if we're going to make a change, it probably has to be Goran Dragic at the point guard position because his timeline doesn't really fit with the rest of these guys.
Got a question coming from Moose Hansen in just 1 second. Just to remind you, we mentioned 15 games on Saturday once the NBA comes back from the Thanksgiving break. There's some huge games coming up beyond that, though. And again, catch them all on League Pass via the site. Minnesota at Golden State Sunday morning. Milwaukee at Orlando Monday morning. Some really mouth-watering stuff coming up. I want to get to this question, though, from Moose Hansen, because it's quite a thought-provoking one. If all the Aussie players in the NBA were in one team, could they win a championship?
Sure. Of course.
Like you're talking the Boomers. Are the Boomers good enough to win the NBA?
Absolutely, yeah. If they're good enough to win.
Pseudo-Aussie Brett Brown is the coach as well. We're claiming Brett Brown, so Brett Brown's going to coach the team.
Are we taking Kyrie as well?
Invite's there, I'll take Kyrie.
Invite's there.
He wants to come.
There was one question just came in saying, when will Kyrie eventually declare he's a proper Australian?
He still refers to Melbourne as his hometown, so I think that's enough. Shout out to New Jersey.
Absolutely. Question coming in here from Jake Leonard. Who do you think will be the next big player in the NBA? And I guess we're talking beyond this season, beyond the draft. Who's going to really pick it up and shine?
For me, it's Devin Booker. I think in his second year, he's already shown. In his first year, he really already showed that he has not only star and all-star potential. This guy has superstar written all over him. He's on a bad team in Phoenix, but they're a young team, and he's already their best player. So I'm all in on Devin Booker.
Joel Embiid would be the guy for me. He's obviously showed it in the first half or the first quarter of the season thus far. And like I said, once those minutes restrictions get off of him, he's going to be, the shackles come off and he's going to be on the road and running. And to see him, to be 7 foot and be able to step back and move the way he does, it's incredible. He's going to only get better. He hasn't even scratched the surface of how good he can truly be.
I think that's the thing. It's not like, he's got a set couple of things that he's doing. He's just reacting to what the defense gives him, and it's all organic. It's all just kind of, none of it's deliberate. It's just, I'm going to do this. I've got this. Like he just looks like he's on autopilot to some degree. So once he starts to really harness his game, we're in trouble.
And things are going to get easier, obviously, when Ben Simmons does show back up. Because when you play with another star, the floor opens up for you, as you see with Kristaps Porzingis. He's playing with Carmelo Anthony, and he's not having the best season, but Carmelo's presence is just opening up things huge for KP.
Joseph Diodati and Jack Bosnich, both asking similar questions about the Lakers, this young Lakers side. Do they have the strength and depth to continue on through this season and achieve something?
I really think so. I think the fact that they have a strong leadership in Luke Walton kind of set the foundation for them. And then obviously he's kind of channeled through D'Angelo Russell, who I think's done a terrific job this season being their leader. And then when you kind of look all the way down the roster, there's youth and talent at pretty much every position, whether it's young Draymond Green in Julius Randle, then you go Larry Nance coming off the bench, Jordan Clarkson. There's a lot of talent there, and still Brandon Ingram, the number 2 pick, working his way into the league. So not only do they have a nice combination of guys that can score and play right now, they have this young core that you have to say is up there with the best young groups in the league, right?
Yeah, they're currently in the playoffs. If the playoffs were to start today, only the Jazz nipping at their heels. And the next 2 games, they will be playing Golden State Warriors back-to-back, which is a little tough on the schedule for them. But that being said, it's a great test to see where they are. And I think the questions about whether or not Luke Walton can coach, those are done now. This guy can coach, and he can coach at the highest level.
One more question. We're just running out of time here, but thank you for all of them. Ryan White, simple question. Portland, Utah, OKC, Denver, or the Timberwolves? Who wins that division this season?
That's a tough question.
That is.
That's why I kept it to the
Yeah.
last.
I'll take the Portland Trailblazers at this point. I know they haven't started the season the way they wanted to, but they'll obviously get it going. I think the key for them is Evan Turner. Right now, he was a big pickup for them. He had a great season last year in Boston, but he's still trying to figure out the way he fits into that system in Portland. He started in today's game against the Knicks. He started to see some signs that he can maybe figure it out with the rest of that bench core around him. Once he figures that out, I think they're off and running, because that gives them now a third option that they've sorely missed.
Adam Wilewski's jumped in and said Utah. Your thoughts quickly?